What is going on, Cowboys Nation? Free agency is literally starting tomorrow, and I am so fired up to break down everything you need to know before the madness begins. We have got edge rusher targets that have been specifically mentioned by ESPN insider Jeremy Fowler. We have got the Brandon Aubrey situation and whether any team is actually crazy enough to try and sign him away from Dallas. And we have got the impending big moves the Cowboys are going to have to make to clear cap space and actually participate in free agency this year. Now, before we get into all of this, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because we are going live tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, 1 hour before the legal tampering period gets going at noon. You do not want to miss that show because we are going to be covering everything as it happens in real time. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and head over to youtube.com Cowboys TV so you are ready to go when free agency kicks off. All right, let us focus in on the edge rushers because this is where the action is going to be for the Cowboys. We all know what happened with the Max Crosby situation. The Cowboys were very clearly in on him. They were interested, but they were not willing to offer the 2 first-round picks that the Raiders were asking for. If they had offered those picks, they would have gotten him, but they chose not to pull that trigger. That tells me they are set on trying to get a veteran edge rusher through free agency instead. Here is what ESPN insider Jeremy Fowler wrote, and this is important information, straight from one of the most connected reporters in the league. He said Dallas must now pivot to free agency. He mentioned that Atlanta's pass rusher, who they were monitoring dating back to the trade deadline, is now a free agent. And then he listed the names. Jalen Phillips, Odafe Oweh, and Boy Mayfair will be firmly on Dallas's radar in the coming days. Let me break down each of these guys for you because they are all very different players with very different situations. Trey Hendrickson is the big ticket item here. This is the guy who has been one of the most productive pass rushers in football over the last several years. He is coming off an injury-plagued season, which is concerning, and he is on the wrong side of 30. But as a pass rusher, you are not going to find a more proven one in the free agent market. The injury stuff and the age factor might actually devalue him a bit, which could work in the Cowboys' favor. Here is what we know about his contract demands. He had wanted $30 million somewhere in that ballpark during extension talks with the Bengals. He did not get it, and I kind of do not think he is going to get it now because of the injury and the age factor. But here's the thing. If you can get him back on track to getting double-digit sacks, 12-plus sacks, he is absolutely worth it. That kind of production would transform this Cowboys pass rush overnight. Jalen Phillips is another fascinating name, and he has a direct connection to this coaching staff. He played under Christian Parker to an extent when Parker was in Philadelphia. The sack numbers have never been overly impressive for Phillips, although they were in 2023, despite limited games played. He was healthy this year, and the pressure rate was really good for him. Here is the interesting part. Jeremy Fowler also reported that the Eagles are trying to bring Phillips back on a deal worth around $20 million. So the Cowboys would have to beat that offer or at least match it to get him. Odafe Oweh is a really intriguing name to me because he was great in 2024 and also really good in 2025 once he ended up with the Chargers. He spent a lot of his time with the Ravens the past couple years and was part of the Aloe Gilman flip, which I think actually ended up being good for both sides. Gilman helped stabilize the Ravens a little bit, and Oweh was very good for the Chargers. They brought back Khalil Mack, so I wonder what will happen with Oweh in free agency. He could be super expensive, more than we might expect, but the production has been there. Boy Maffei's production has gone in the wrong direction in consecutive years, which is a concern. Part of that was just the depth the Seahawks had at the edge rusher spot, but it is worth noting he is a former high-round pick, and he is not going to be as expensive as I think Oweh could be. So if you are looking for value, Maffei might be the play. So of those 4 guys, Cowboys Nation, who would you sign? Drop TH in the comments for Trey Hendrickson, JP for Jalen Phillips, O for Odafe Oweh, or BM for Boy Mayfair. I want to see where this community stands. Now, here is the thing. Even if it is not Trey Hendrickson, adding one or two starting edges would be massive for this team. You could throw names like Malcolm Kunsey or Kayvon Thibodeau or Draymond Jones into the mix. I do not know how expensive guys like Jones and Thibodeau and Kunsey will be, but maybe they come in under $10 million per year. Quincy Payne could be a potential option as well. These are not the sexiest names in the same way that Hendrickson or Phillips are, but you have to get bodies in here. Look at what the Cowboys currently have. You have got Donovan Ezaraku. You have got James Houston. You have got Maris Lee Fowle. That is not enough for me. That is not a starting caliber edge rush room in the NFL. I am looking at one or two edges in free agency, and I am drafting somebody because I think you draft an edge rusher every single year. The big picture idea of attacking this front seven makes sense. You need at least two new starters at minimum and probably two more rotation pieces on top of that. Attack the front seven with veteran starters, even if that means spending on your more expensive guys, and then look towards the draft potentially for some of your back-end players. That might end up being the plan for the Cowboys, and we will see over the course of the next 24 to 48 to 72 hours. All right, let us go to the Brandon Aubrey situation, because there have been some Twitter reports out there linking the Packers and Giants to a potential Brandon Aubrey offer sheet. Let me break down exactly how this works, because I think there is some confusion out there. The Cowboys have not officially placed the tender on Aubrey yet because the NFL does not actually process those transactions on the weekends before the new league year begins. But the Cowboys are going to use the second-round tender on Brandon Aubrey. That will get him to roughly $5.75 million if there is no long-term deal done. Now, here is what has happened so far. The Cowboys have offered Aubrey a highest-paid record-setting kicker contract. He said no, he wants more, and honestly, I have no issues with that. He has earned the right to bet on himself. Here is how the restricted free agency process works. Teams can offer Aubrey a contract starting on Wednesday. I do not think they can do it until the new league year actually begins. Once a team makes an offer, Dallas can either match that contract offer and keep Aubrey on the exact same deal, or they would get that team's second-round pick instead. So if the Giants, which has been whispered out there on Twitter, or the Packers make an offer for Brandon Aubrey, the Cowboys have a decision to make. If they say yes and match it, they keep him on whatever deal was offered. If they say no, they get pick 37 from the Giants or pick 52 from the Green Bay Packers. Look, I love Brandon Aubrey, but if the Giants are stupid enough to give up the 37th overall pick for a kicker, fine. I will take that pick all day long. So let me ask you, Cowboys Nation, do you think someone will actually try to sign Brandon Aubrey? Drop Y in the comments for yes or N for no. I know what the buzz out there is saying, but I would be surprised if a team ended up making a contract offer that was so much more outlandish and expensive than what the Cowboys themselves would be willing to match, and then give up a pick on top of that to go get him. You are talking about wanting to give him a $9 million deal and pay a second-round pick for a kicker. That is too much. I get that Aubrey wants to reset the kicker market. I understand it completely. But this is one of those situations where I have zero issues with how the Cowboys have played it so far. The tender this year makes him the third highest-paid kicker in football for the time being. Let it play out. I do not see any rush here. And if a team wants to do the work for you or give you a second-round pick, which again I doubt will happen, fine. So be it. Let me remind you of what the reported RFA decisions have been so far. Brandon Aubrey and TJ Bass are getting second-round tenders. The Cowboys are not tendering Brock Hoffman and Kamar Thomas. Right of first refusal for those guys would have been a couple $1 million. Hoffman definitely would have had that type of interest, and I think he will get a solid offer from another team. The Cowboys are not going to match it. They are picking TJ Bass over Hoffman. By waiting and just allowing him to leave, they potentially keep themselves in the comp pick game, which is something the Cowboys have always valued. How many players will the Cowboys end up signing on Monday? Drop your prediction in the comments right now. Now, as we discussed this morning on our Perfect Free Agency Plan show, the Cowboys do have to clear cap space. They are narrowly in the green on the salary cap right now, but that is just for the current moment. Let me explain why that is going to change and how they can create the money they need. The Cowboys have some easy switches to pull here. Osei Odighizuwa has a current contract worth $20.75 million. The max restructure savings on that deal are $12.03 million. That is $12 million freed up just like that. Quinnen Williams has a $21 million cap hit. This all comes on the heels of Stephen Jones saying they need the defense to tackle money to do stuff. He is right. A restructure on Quinnen Williams with maximum savings would save you $14.59 million. You could also work out an extension with Quinn, which I would not totally rule out. That would save you about an extra million for a total of $15.56 million. But either way, the bare bones minimums of restructuring OSA and Quinn means all of a sudden you have saved 26 plus million in salary cap with ease. Then there is Kenny Clark's contract. He has a $21.5 million cap hit, and none of which is guaranteed, by the way. So you could technically cut him if you wanted to. I do not think they are going to want to do that, though. A restructure on Clark would only save you $9.6 million. An extension, or if you add a bunch of void years to it, would save you $15.36 million. I think the reason why you have not heard any news yet on these defensive tackles is because the Cowboys are not just working on restructure stuff, but extension stuff specifically with Kenny Clark. There is more money to be saved with an extension, and frankly, there is ego involved. They got him as part of the Micah Parsons trade package, and they want to keep him around. Now, there is a deadline for Clark. That is March 13th. His non-guaranteed $11 million roster bonus is due on that date. You would want to work out a different deal so that you can make that into a base signing bonus or something along those lines if you want to add void years to it. So you want to have something done by then. But here is the important thing to understand. The real deadline for all of these moves is not Monday. It is really more like Wednesday. That is the real deadline because you can agree to deals with players and not have the cap space for them yet. That is fine. They have not signed anything at that point. You can agree to sign 3 players and then go restructure those guys on Tuesday night and get cap compliant to then officially sign those players on Wednesday. Outside free agents cannot sign with teams until Wednesday anyway. So the Cowboys have to be patient and execute the plan in stages. There are some other contracts if you really wanted to bust the budget. Terrence Steele's $18 million deal could be restructured to save $8 million, or you could cut him to save $8.75 or $14 million. It feels like none of those are going to happen. Deron Bland has $17 million coming his way on the cap, and a restructure would save $8.6 if you wanted to. But if you are worried about the injuries, maybe you do not restructure it and push money into the future. Jake Ferguson at $10.4 million could save you $4.83, which is minimal but noteworthy. You could cut Malik Hooker to save under $7 million or extend George Pickens before the deadline and save $20 million. I do not think they are very close on a Pickens extension. Maybe that is something they look to do in June or July. But the bottom line is this. There will be money to spend in free agency. My expectation is that the Cowboys actually go out and spend it this year. And if they do not, I am going to be mad. All right, Cowboys Nation, that is everything you need to know heading into free agency tomorrow. We covered the edge targets. We covered the Aubrey situation. We covered exactly how the Cowboys are going to create cap space. Now I want to hear from you. Of the 4 edge rushers mentioned, who would you sign? Who do you think the Cowboys will actually land? How many signings are they making on Monday? Drop all of that in the comments. And remember, we are going live tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, 1 hour before legal tampering begins. Subscribe right now at youtube.com/CowboysTV so you do not miss a single second of the action. We are going to be covering everything in real time as it happens. Until next time, Cowboys Nation, take care of yourselves, and I will see you tomorrow for the madness.